Thank you. What's inspired me this afternoon? Totally blown away by the passion that is on display from colleagues who and artists who speak with much more passion and eloquence than I do. Jess, totally blown away by that. Evie, Commonwealth, speaking up for others. And John Lord's amazing work at Bolton at Home. This idea of citizenship and theatres being much more than places which merely just put on plays. The idea of taking your place in the world, taking your place to change things. And in a time of anxiety and uncertainty, I think what's inspired me is that we need artists and communities to work better together, to question, to examine, and re-examine what it is to be human. Who's allowed and who's encouraged, who's denied. All these things are important, that artists need to work together with people and communities to make sure this is reflected on our stages. John McGrath's call for raucousness totally resonated with me. And yes, it's important to have empathy, important to listen, but maybe our stages do need to be a little bit more raucous. And the energy was very palpable in this afternoon's session, and that's come through the passion of the artists who were speaking this afternoon. We need joy. Inua's call for joy as also anger as a positive energy. And the idea of being raucous resonated with me as an artistic director here. And I, throughout the sessions, was questioning whether, the work that I've done recently is too safe, too comfortable, and actually this is a big question for me in the future about how we drive our stages forward so that they remain relevant and resonant. And Hull's a city that's engaging in a process whereby how does art and culture transform and make sense of a place? How does it shape the future? How does it unlock potential? And this idea of unsettling an idea and transforming a place was very pertinent and resonant to me. What was lacking for me, I was reflecting on my own position as a parent, and what I've liked to have seen a little bit more was the idea of parents and having careers in the arts. And I was wondering how many more people would have turned up today had they not been worried about childcare. A creche would be great, and it also made me reflect very much on how we need to probably adjust our culture of presenteeism. All for this binning the word emerging, but it also, and how it is labelled primarily towards younger artists, but it did make me think about we need to be speaking about older artists and getting older, social isolation and exclusion. What's next? Here at Hull Truck Theatre, we're on a major drive to make our organisation more inclusive, more welcoming and braver, and we're going to re-examine every nook and cranny of who we are, who we say we are, and who do we want to be. Are these things true, or is this things that we just say? If not, what are we going to do about it? This, however, is really exciting. There is a thrill and a joy in the unknown, and the world is rapidly changing. It's no time to sit on our bums and talking endlessly. We have to act. And I've been swept away by the passion on display and the determination not to be excluded. And the idea of the possibility of giving up power to gain something good is something that I will take forward with me in my artistic directorship of Hull Truck Theatre. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Well, I've had 2 fantastic days. I've really enjoyed this conference. In fact, I've enjoyed it more than any other conference I've been to in the last year. From all the industry conferences that I've been to, there have been more interesting ideas here than I've heard anywhere else. And also what's been really interesting is meeting so many colleagues and hearing colleagues from Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and England. You could almost, remember that we're still in the United Kingdom and not just about to jump off a cliff. The one thing that I've really heard more than anything else from all the speakers in this conference is that we in the arts really need to change, and we need wholesale organisational change of the way that we deliver the arts. And as I'm one of the Arts Council's change makers, I suppose I'm part of that. And that change, I think, has to come. And we heard it from speakers all the way through yesterday. We have to diversify our boards. It's the easiest thing to do, and it's cheap. And if any of you say, we can't find suitably qualified BME or disabled people to put on our boards, then I'd say to you, go and look in your foyers or in your galleries, because the one area of statistic that is very healthy for diversity is attendance. There are lots of disabled and BME people coming to your work. Why aren't they in your board? Because if we are simply content with white, middle-class, straight, able-bodied boards, they are only going to appoint white, middle-class, straight, able-bodied leaders. And let me give you an example of a diverse board that is really making a difference. I'm on the Council of the Arts Council of Wales. And we have a very diverse board. And we discovered that one of our companies, national company, was doing work that was fundamentally inaccessible. They were doing work on top of mountains and things like that nobody could get to. And we took the view as a council, this wasn't coming from officers, this was the council's decision, we will not fund anything that is inaccessible. And I don't think any arts council has actually taken that position before. We were the first, I hope. And I don't believe that the Arts Council would have taken that position had it not had a very diverse board who fully understood and supported that view. So, you know, it does make an impact. And you might go away thinking, oh, governance is really dull, really boring, nothing to do with me. It really is to do with you, because it's about the future of the arts. And we must ensure that our boards are diverse. There's also a responsibility for artists, and this is something I picked up yesterday. Twice during yesterday's event, we were all asked to stand up and take part in some fun events. 3 of us in the room weren't able to. And artists, I think, have got a role here as well. Very often you go to performances, site-specific performances, or visual arts installations. You can't get a wheelchair in. They're not accessible, and yet they're publicly funded. And that's something that I think is substantially wrong, and we have to, you know, not be the people on Jess's bus and be silent and sit back and say it's not my problem. It is our problem, and we've got to address that. Many of us who are disabled have had to deal with something called reasonable adjustment in the Disability Discrimination Act. And reasonable adjustment is what most arts organisations have adhered to over the last few years, which is basically doing the least to make your venue or your work accessible, and not actually putting any great thought into it. So in other words, I'm always on the front row, or I'm on the back row. Or if I'm at a West End theatre, I'm behind a pillar. And we need to go slightly further than that, because I don't think that's any longer good enough. And, you know, we need unreasonable adjustment. We need equality of experience. And that, once we achieve that, you'll start getting more disabled people coming into the arts. I was also really taken by Iman's notion of the bubble that we exist in, and the fact that we all have multiple identities. And certainly in diversity, I think that's a really important area for us to think about. We all have multiple identities, and we must make sure that those are communicated, and we don't just align ourselves to single ideas and single concepts. So that's really, I think that's me. Use my 4 minutes. So over to you.
This is my first No Boundaries, so I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity to be here and to have been really inspired over the last couple of days about the kind of the range of ideas, but also the ownership of the problems and the ownership of the challenges that I think we all face going ahead, particularly being aware of privilege and being aware that privilege creates systems where there are gates and there are barriers to other people being here. And I think the whole range of making these, like listening to the other, making unlikely partnerships, and these sorts of ideas are things that have really inspired me for like the last couple of days, and also looking at people sharing genuine good ideas about how we can challenge that and how we can go forward. I think one of the things that struck me over the last sort of hour while I was going, oh God, I've got to speak, was actually who should be here. I was I'm very, very grateful and very privileged to be here today, but I was also kind of thinking, actually, who would I have liked to have brought along who isn't necessarily in the arts field, isn't necessarily in management, but actually cares about this work, cares about, you know, the arts in general, but can't be here or doesn't know how to access this or what we do in this room when we're sharing these ideas. And I think that's something that I really want to take away from this. I mean, I keep thinking about my own mother who kind of goes, you know, the arts aren't for me. And I kind of go, well, actually, why not? And I just wonder, like, what are those barriers and what can we be doing to challenge those barriers? Whether that's actually, like, particularly for these conferences, who would you have liked to have brought along with you who wouldn't have had an opportunity to do so? And I would love to see that kind of going forwards. And I think I'm going to go for a very short period because I have no idea of time, so I'm going to pass on.
It's a great relief. Nobody's got my ideas so far. It's been the most incredibly joyful, stimulating, surprising and infuriating 2 days. To start with joy, what I found really inspirational was hearing about people's journey to arts and culture. Claire and Jamie talking about parents who believed we could do anything and mavericks who gave us chances. Hearing about Susanna Wallace from Dagenham staring at a painting at the National Gallery at the age of 3, going to the opera when she'd always wanted to, Nick Sirota being taken to the Picasso exhibition by his father. And I could echo that. Being taken to Farron's Art Gallery when I was a 7-year-old was my road to Damascus. And John McGrath talking about moments of pure joy, moments that take us out of as well as bring us into the events of our time. And I think that's important. I loved Rachel Caldicott's talk about reaching audiences. Oops, sorry, I've never done this before. I'm losing my... Sorry, my computer's not behaving. There we are. It's not true that if you build it, they will come. I think we still fall for that. Great art is difficult. Get the most visible place, the right-hand side of the street, put temptation in everybody's way. I loved that. Location, Main Street, Main Street. So that was fantastic, but I was just as dismayed to hear us laughing as we heard about how easy it is to push out inaccurate rubbish over social media. Fake news. People are sheep, people's opinions are influenced by the peer group, press don't do fact-checking, you can create interesting lies. So basically, you can peddle any shit you want to. But just because you can, should we do it? Well, maybe we should. Maybe we have a higher message to peddle, so maybe it's allowed. So what was frustrating or lacking from the debate? I'd like to say for me it was who's missing from the debate, who's not here. Pause again. I would say that most of the music sector's not here, and because I'm director of music, I find that really quite disturbing. With some notable exceptions. And I think some large venue-based arts organisations are not here. Notable exceptions again. Notable exception on both counts is the Royal Opera House. So I think, why is music never here? Why is the music sector not engaging in these conversations with the rest of us? Because I know that that sector with itself is talking about exactly the same issues, but they're not here to share and to learn. So I'd like to see something done about that. Larger institutions, they've got a lot to contribute and a lot to learn. I heard one of our changemakers say today that small organisations have the great new ideas, big organisations have infrastructure and resource. It doesn't feel like we're having a complete conversation at the moment because not everybody's around the table. There's great work being done, and particularly at Tate Exchange, I was really delighted to see Museum of Homelessness, Counterpoint Arts, all working with mainstream institutions and creating the unusual alliances. So we need the whole ecology here for the whole ecology to change. finally, I just want to pick up on two things that Munira Mirza said about Europe. She talked about the benefits of Creative Europe being exaggerated, and I think that was predicated on the fact that the only benefits were financial, and I really want to object to that because I think there's so much more. Access to networks, access to new markets for UK work, and a chance to be part of the conversation because we have many issues in common with Europe and we need to be talking about them together with Europe. And I don't think having a strong relationship with Europe precludes us having the opportunity to forge dynamic and inclusive relationships with the rest of the world. But if we're not careful, it's going to be as difficult for us working in Europe as it is currently working in India, China, Brazil, and so on, because of the bureaucratic hurdles in the way. And so we need to work together to make sure that the negotiations go in our way. And I'm going to be told to shut up any minute, I can see from Lee.
I would never do that. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Cathy.
So I'm going to introduce our panellists here for their reflections on No Boundaries. So please welcome Alison Clark, Arts Council England, Drew Hemment, Future Everything, Gabriella Gomez-Mont, Laboratorio para la Ciudad, and Pete Moser, More Music.
Well, if it's me starting, I'm starting with a song, so I'll give you... I'm a musician, community musician, an artist, songwriter, and inevitably I brought in a ukulele when I came along. And also I found that this was my territory. You know, inclusion is where I've lived and where I've worked all my life. So this felt a very comfortable place to be. And I'm also a musician, so we are represented here in some sort of sense. I called the office as I travelled down. I said, can you write in the diary that I'm out of town? I'm at a thing called No Boundaries. She said, have you got any? I've never noticed. Where are they? Where are they? Can you show me the way? What are they? Where are they? Can we change the way we... Can we change the way we... Come on, offer me something. Play. Okay, that'll do. Well, I tweet to a college. I tweet to a colleague down at Youth Music. It's all about inclusion, I say. So take your pick of the speakers so far at No Boundaries. He asks the questions. Will anything shift? He says, will it lead to a concerted, targeted action outside of all the talking? Well, what are they? Where are they? Oh, can you show me the way? What are they? Where are they? Can we change the way that we... Oh, no, something else. Come on, sorry. Say, okay, all those things. Being diverse is easy. Inclusive is hard. Is there a mirror in your precious backyard? Can you walk in the front? Are you falling through the back? How's your unlikely alliance? What's your latest hack? What's the quota of beauty in your latest tune? Come with me and we'll fly to the moon. We'll fly to the moon. We'll fly to the moon. Come fly to the moon. Come fly to the moon. Well, I've known about the theory of failure and how it's part of you, me, and her. And at this place called No Boundaries, it's confirmed there's no neutral space. So let's all shout out as loud as we can, throw our imaginary spear. Be raucous and angry, challenge ourselves and the people in the power who may just be listening. Where are they? Who are they? Can we show them the way? What are they? Where are they? Can we change the way that they fly? Pay. They make decisions, they allocate. It's all about sounderies. It's all about other way rounderies. These were from the songwriting session, you can tell, won't they? It's all about the sounderies, no boundaries. There's many other way rounderies. We can go, we can play. It's just another way to say. And this was written by my little group. Are we in the right place? Do we share the same... Oh, that was the title of the first session, wasn't it? Oh. Are we in the right place? It's a lovely rhyme. Do we share the same space? We must all leave our trace. Let's do it with grace. At our own pace. Avoid the arts rat race. Cut the chase and talk about race. Can I have your face? Let the ace race do an about face and support us all to make a good grant case, to find our way out to outer space where we all can be a disgrace. Embrace Moonface, make it a better place. We're all ace.
So I'm not going to sing a song, which is good for all of you, really. So what I liked, first and foremost, it was the format itself. It was the range, the diversity, the inclusivity, and the pure smartness of the speakers over 2 days, which was absolutely fantastic. And if I ever go to or I hear about a conference where they haven't done this, it's because they didn't want to. Whatever else they say about can't find people, this has proven to me it's more than possible. So I think we will not stand for those monocultural panels anymore. I also loved, in terms of the format, that there was no questions from the floor, because even though we always have lots to say, those sessions in the bar afterwards are way better. And really, unless Kirsty Walk, and literally only Kirsty Walk, chairs those sessions on a stage, it doesn't work. I heard a lot about power and change, which really resonated. I loved the challenge that for those of us who have power, we must speak up for those who don't. I loved the idea that that art can and should, that art should not be a safe place for sacred cows. So for me, the whole 2 days have really reinvigorated my feeling that the arts can and do make a difference. And there was something Rachel Caldicott said, which said she was moving. She realised she was moving at the pace of tech, not the pace of the arts. The arts needs to really build on the kind of energy, I think, we see here, and just have a much, much greater momentum and a much greater drive. I loved, there was a lot here as well that was about, it was about home and what home means, the fact that home in a way means the whole world. And one of the speakers talked about really extending the table, and I think that certainly resonated with me too. And like lots of people, really hearing John McGrath saying that it's okay and it's right to be angry and messy and raucous, we should always remember that. I suppose what I found more difficult, I thought the reaction to Lucy Clark from Social Chain was absolutely fascinating. I mean, she was probably the most different speaker any of us have heard at these kinds of conferences, and in some ways, well, first of all, I was thinking a bit, would my 4,200 followers get me a gift from them? But then I put that to one side, and I was really surprised at the reaction that she was from a completely different world to us, and even though it was slightly horrifying and slightly terrifying, it kind of didn't matter because that wasn't our world. Well, the truth is, it is, and I think that while we may have recoiled at that somewhat, we need to really think about what the response is, because there's a power in there, and I think it's the job of the arts to really use that power for good. Like Cathy, I was slightly surprised that there were fewer people from some of the, I guess just some of those larger MPOs here. And I would have expected and hoped and wanted that the kind of energy and ideas and everything we've all seen here today could have been important enough for those people to be actually in the room. And yes, I'm sure there were lots of people watching online, but just a sense of just being in the room, I think, does a bit more. So really, that's all my reflections. What will I do differently? I think that these 2 days have just given me an even greater mandate for the role that I'm in and the Arts Council as a whole. To really be more porous and to have, I don't think we will ever have no boundaries, I'll say that now, but I think fewer boundaries would be a good thing. Thank you.
Much of what I hear today and that inspires me in general, I bring back because of my job into the context of a city. And many of the talks today that more or less overwhelm their point of origin and the space of their original conversation and become part of a larger community, a part of a larger conversation, reminded me of a quote that has followed me around in my different capacities and jobs. It's by Lewis Mumford, who used to be a city thinker, and who says, "The city that promotes art is art too. A city that creates theater, it's in itself a play. We have understood it all wrong if we believe that a city's function is to organize communities and social structures with pragmatism and velocity. The principal function of a city is to convert power into form, energy into culture, inert material into living symbols of art, reproduction into social creativity." That's what he would say, and I have the feeling that both in terms of the city level as well as smaller communities, a big question that I take back, both that inspires me as well, that I will keep working on, is how do we build cities for the imagination, both on a city block as well as in larger structures? How is it that we can create these coming together of people that actually will promote and support the people that we've been hearing all throughout these last 2 days? In terms of what I would have added to the conversation, I think I agree with a lot of the thoughts in terms of who is the public. Right now in Mexico City, or rather Mexico on a national level, we just had a huge cut to the cultural budget. Simultaneously in this urban imaginary survey that I mentioned yesterday, where we had 31,000 people answering from all parts of the city, both incredibly impoverished and segregated, and as well as the richer neighborhoods. And culture is either number one or number two across the city as one of the most valued assets. Why are we still having this conversation? Why are the people that should know better, in a certain sense, also not a much more deeper public and participants in these venues is something that I question, as well as in the things that we do here, because in a certain sense I think that now we have to amplify that sphere of influence and really have this become a non sequitur, if you will, where we are convinced of what culture and arts add to the society we live in. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to start with a confession. I've spent 2 days on the front row here, and I have to admit, I forgot you lot were here. Never mind this lot, wherever they've gone. I actually thought, I've been really upset today, and I just thought this was all therapy for me. You know, it's just a really shit day. I remember when the Brexit vote happened, I filled my filter bubble with noxious hot air. I tweeted, I ranted. Today and yesterday, I haven't sent a single tweet or a single Facebook post about Brexit, about Article 50. I've been silent and sullen. And today it's been brilliant. I have been reminded of the profound things we can do to shape our reality, to shape our world. Today was programmed brilliantly. Yesterday was okay too. It was phenomenal. For me, I was inspired by 3 main themes. Art and belonging, art and truth, and art and change. Belonging, we had a phenomenal session on citizenship. Hamad's presentation of Rashid Rana's work, looking at the fabric of Manchester built from the people of Lahore. Also, John's nice formulation of the balance between belonging and change, which is really key. And in another sense, Adam Brown yesterday on the provocation of handing over ownership to communities. This is urgent. We are in a crisis. The people who've been left behind, manipulated, we have division. And that exclusion has come back to bite us with a devil on its back. The second theme was truth. So, truth. Truth in the era of Trump and Rex Secco. Wow, wasn't that wonderful? Rex Secco, fantastic. So art is about speaking truth to power. It's about reflecting difficult truths. But art is also the place where we work out together what the nature of truth is to us. It's the place where we have to respond to fake news. I loved on a Rhodes talk on trust. Honor told us how trust is learned. It's how we negotiate the disappointment when truth and reality fall short of perfection. In my own experience, we're working in projects where art's ability to engage with difficult issues like trust is taking us into new places, crossing boundaries. We're working at Future Everything in technology projects where artists' ability to engage in issues like trust is putting art at the centre of major technology programmes like the European Union €150 million Internet of Things programme. And I do just have to point out one little alternative fact, or maybe partial fact this morning, about investment from Europe being 10 million. That may be Creative Europe, but we are involved in 12 million euros worth of projects from Europe. So there's a huge investment there. And that's because of art's ability to challenge and to express truth in different ways. Finally, change. Another beautiful talk by Inuo Elams. Beautiful in many ways, but I love the way he ended in championing for a precious form of activism we need to nurture, of simply being there, visible, happy. We heard from Gabriella about how art can shape cities. We've heard from Jessica Turtle about how art can respond to homelessness. And we heard from Paula Varjak that without art, the future would never change. The art's role is not just to represent, not just to soothe, not even to inspire. It is to lead. The challenges we face are formidable, but the creative, social, human, intellectual resources at our disposal are formidable too.